My name is Mary Catherine Blackwood. I am 18 years old, and I live with my sister Constance. Everyone else in my family is dead. I write this sitting in the kitchen sink. That is, my feet are in it. The rest of me is on the draining board, which I have padded with our dog's blanket and the tea cozy. 2 teenage girls, 2 crumbling castles, 2 pairs of sisters whose fates are impossibly intertwined. One story ends in hope, the other in horror. Hey, it's Andrew with the Isle of Misfit Books, where we discuss books that have struck me and stuck with me in my 25 years of working in rare books. And today we're exploring 2 of my favorite castles. Dodie Smith's incredibly charming coming-of-age classic, I Capture the Castle, and Shirley Jackson's masterpiece of Gothic horror, We Have Always Lived in the Castle. One is Jane Austen with a touch of magic, the other Emily Bronte with a penchant for poison. Once you've read them side by side, you'll never see either quite the same way again. I Capture the Castle, first published in 1948, was Dodie Smith's first novel, after establishing herself with a very successful career as a playwright. Her later novel, 101 Dalmatians, is much more famous now, but when I Capture the Castle was first published, it was an enormous success, immensely popular, and remains a deserved classic today. Our narrator is 17-year-old Cassandra Mortmain, and she's keeping a journal while living in a crumbling castle in 1930s England. Her father bought it on a romantic whim with the sales from his very successful first novel, but now the family is desperately poor. Her father has been paralyzed by writer's block ever since that first novel was published, and the royalties from that book, published 10 years ago, have long since dried up. I write this sitting in the kitchen sink. That is, my feet are in it. The rest of me is on the draining board, which I have padded with our dog's blanket and the tea cozy. I can't say that I am really comfortable, and there is a depressing smell of carbolic soap, but this is the only part of the kitchen where there is any daylight left. And I have found that sitting in a place where you have never sat before can be inspiring. I wrote my very best poem while sitting on the henhouse. Though even that isn't a very good poem, I have decided my poetry is so bad that I mustn't write any more of it. That opening image of a teenage girl sitting in the sink because it's the only place with enough light left perfectly captures the family's poverty and Cassandra's irrepressible creativity. She's charming, witty, self-deprecating, but keep in mind that self-deprecation is a strategy. It is designed to elicit our sympathy, and charming or charismatic is not always completely honest. Now let's jump forward 14 years to 1962, when Shirley Jackson published her final novel and what is arguably her masterpiece, We Have Always Lived in the Castle. My name is Mary Catherine Blackwood. I am 18 years old, and I live with my sister Constance. I have often thought that with any luck at all, I could have been born a werewolf, because the 2 middle fingers on both my hands are the same length, but I have had to be content with what I had. I dislike washing myself, and dogs, and noise. I like my sister Constance, and Richard Plantagenet, and Amanita phalloides, the death-cap mushroom. Everyone else in my family is dead. Listen to that voice again. She's the same age as Cassandra, but the voice sounds childlike, still rooted in the past, in a time when she was 12, when most of those in her family died. Mary Catherine Maricat Blackwood lives with her older sister Constance in the family estate, and as she says in that opening paragraph, everyone else in her family is dead. Not from old age or illness. They were poisoned. A famous case. The deeper you dig into their story, the more you realize that Maricat knows an awful lot about what happened. Both novels feature teenage girls narrating their relationships with older sisters in isolated, castle-like homes. Both families have fallen from wealth into poverty and social isolation. Both stories revolve around the arrival of male suitors who threaten the sisterly bond, and both explore what happens when a younger sister's fierce and protective love crosses the line into something much darker. But where Smith sees eventual hope and growth, Jackson sees only entrapment and decay. In I Capture the Castle, we have Cassandra and her 20-year-old sister Rose. Rose is pretty and outgoing, Cassandra smart and introverted. When two wealthy American brothers inherit the castle and Rose becomes engaged to the older brother Simon, who stands to inherit the bulk of the family's fortune, Cassandra insists she's not jealous. Now, first-person narrators are always unreliable, and Smith makes it clear that Cassandra is lying to herself. She eavesdrops on Simon's proposal and immediately bursts in by accident. She goes to London to challenge Rose's feelings. She performs a Midsummer Eve ritual that seems to magically summon Simon to her. A truly magical evening that ends in him kissing her. Her first kiss, despite his betrothal to her sister. The brilliant thing about Smith's novel is how she shows us Cassandra's jealousy while Cassandra refuses to acknowledge it. Like Jane Austen, which is the model for this book, Smith's narrative has some steel to it. And I think that's largely rooted in the ever-present awareness of class and financial issues. Jackson takes this sister dynamic and pushes it into genuinely disturbing territory. Where Cassandra and Rose are close, Maricat and Constance are downright symbiotic. They don't just love each other, they cannot exist without each other. Constance is too terrified to leave the house. Maricat performs elaborate magical rituals to keep intruders away. When Maricat asks, "We'll always be together, won't we, Constance?" her childlike question carries an undertone of threat. It's clear from the opening paragraph, after all, that she knows entirely too much about poison. Both protagonists are fascinated by ritual and magic, but they use it for very different purposes. Cassandra's magic is seasonal, hopeful, connected to nature and growth and change. Her annual Midsummer Eve rituals are about summoning love and possibility. This is magic as romantic wish fulfillment, the kind of gentle, supernatural elements that you might find in a fairy tale or in a Shakespeare comedy. It's about opening doors rather than sealing them shut. Maricat's magic is entirely different. She buries treasures around the property and checks them compulsively to ensure that they're still doing their job of warding off danger. She has forbidden words that must never be spoken in her presence. Her rituals are not about summoning anything. They're about keeping everything away. This is magic as obsessive-compulsive disorder, as a trauma response, as a desperate attempt to control an uncontrollable world. Where Cassandra's magic opens her to new experiences, Maricat's magic is designed to ensure that nothing ever changes again. And that's what really separates these two characters. It's their relationship to change. Cassandra fears change, but ultimately embraces it. She recognizes that growing up means leaving some things behind. Even when Simon invites her to go with him to America, she declines the invitation, understanding that both of them need time to heal and grow. Maricat, on the other hand, is allergic to change. She's been emotionally frozen at the age of 12 since the family murders 6 years ago. Her entire magical system is designed to keep her and Constance trapped in a single moment, safe from the world, but also safe from growth, from healing, and from life itself. In both novels, the arrival of male characters threatens the sisterly bond. Once again, Smith and Jackson handle this completely differently. In I Capture the Castle, Simon and Neil Cotton are wealthy American heirs who bring both romantic possibility and economic salvation. Yes, they disrupt the family dynamic, but they also offer the possibility of genuine love and the chance for a different kind of life. And the conflict isn't really about whether these men are good or bad, it's about whether the sisters are ready to grow up and enter the adult world of romantic relationships, and what sort of compromises entering that world might entail. Cassandra's initial jealousy and her suspicion of those compromises gives way to genuine concern for everyone's happiness, including Rose's and Simon's. Cousin Charles in Jackson's novel serves a similar structural function. He's the outsider who threatens the sister bond, but Jackson makes him genuinely predatory. He's 32, broke, and clearly after Constance's money. When he threatens to have Maricat institutionalized, we're meant to see him as a real threat, not just a romantic complication. But here's what's brilliant about Jackson's novel. Even though Charles is obviously a fortune hunter, he's offering Constance something real, a chance at a normal life, at human connection beyond the suffocating confines of her relationship with Maricat. The tragedy is that Constance is too damaged and Maricat too dangerous for that possibility to ever be realized. Both novels build to dramatic climaxes involving fire and the threat of losing the castle home, but again with opposite meanings. In Smith's novel, Cassandra's Midsummer Eve bonfire causes Simon to appear, but also forces Cassandra to confront her imminent adulthood. In Jackson's novel, Maricat responds to Charles's threat by setting a fire in his room, which burns almost the entire house down. The townspeople arrive initially to watch the firemen putting out the fire, but then they go on a rampage in which they complete the fire's destruction, confirming Maricat's very pessimistic, cynical worldview that the world is full of terrible people, as she says. She and Constance retreat to the kitchen and barricade themselves in there, becoming hermits, living on preserves, and becoming local legends. Witches transformed into ghosts. We learned from listening that all the strangers could see from outside, when they looked at all, was a great ruined structure overgrown with vines, barely recognizable as a house. No one ever saw our eyes looking out through the vines. When Cassandra finally has the chance to get what she thought she wanted, Simon's love, escape from poverty, a romantic adventure in America, she chooses to let it go. Not out of fear, but out of wisdom. She recognizes that Simon's turning toward her is rooted in his own pain and in seeking solace from his heartbreak over Rose's rejection. She understands that real love requires both people to be ready for it. I didn't make any mistake. I know that when he nearly asked me to marry him, it was only an impulse, just as it was when he kissed me on Midsummer Eve. A mixture of liking me very much and longing for Rose. It is part of a follow-my-leader game of second best we have all been playing. Rose with Simon, Simon with me with Stephen. It isn't a very good game. The people you play it with are apt to get hurt. This is emotional maturity in action. The recognition that not every desire should be immediately gratified. That love requires patience and wisdom as well as passion. Maricat makes the opposite choice. When faced with the possibility that Constance might choose a life with Charles, might choose growth over stagnation, connection over isolation, she decides to burn it all down. By the novel's end, she's successfully trapped herself and Constance in a permanent state of childhood trauma. They'll never grow up, they'll never change, they'll never risk being hurt again. But they'll also never heal, never love again, never become fully human. Jackson presents this as a Gothic horror story, but it's also a painfully realistic portrayal of how trauma can freeze people in time, how the fear of future pain can cause us to choose a living death over the risks of actual life. Both novels remain beloved because they capture something true about the intensity of family relationships and the terror of growing up. Smith gives us the version we want to believe, where love wins out over jealousy, wisdom triumphs over impulse, where the castle's tower still stands, providing a view of the surrounding countryside. Jackson gives us the version we're afraid might be true, where trauma calcifies into permanent damage, where love becomes possession and obsession, and where the castle crumbles completely, leaving only the dungeon. So which castle speaks to you? When faced with change, loss, and the inevitable pain of growing up, do we choose courage or control? Cassandra chooses to release her grip on both Simon and her childhood. She writes in her final entry that she's ready for what's next, even if it's difficult. Maricat chooses to tighten her grip until she's strangling the life out of everything she claims to love. Both novels, of course, are brilliant in their own ways, but they're asking you to choose. Will you be Cassandra, learning to let go, or Maricat, refusing to let anything change? Ultimately, the castle is the same. The choice is entirely yours. So I hope you got some value, hope you got some entertainment out of this side-by-side tour of two fantastic castles. Highly recommend both books, of course. If so, please leave a like, and go ahead and send this to somebody that you think might appreciate it. Subscribe for more book tours along these lines. There should be one popping up in the corner here sometime soon, if not already. I've written a couple of novels, one a fantasy and one an action adventure, and I'll have links to those in the description box below. But I've got a couple of new books coming out this summer that I'm super excited about. So stay tuned. I'll have more news about those coming real soon. That's all I've got for you today. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you in the next one.